Gentlemen, start your engines. Here we go. Football. You've got high school, college, and the pros get underway this week on Thursday. I'm Larry Richard. It's Larry and the Big Man with Jay Caulfield and Dave Ricchini. Gentlemen, good morning.
He's our middleman. Glad he's back.
He's back. He has an actual laptop, so he has the ability to check on everything.
Plus, makes us look important. That's right. He really does.
And we want to thank One Team Media and a strategic partnership building with 93.7 The Fan. My employer, the Odyssey team. I do the Big K Morning Show on the station that actually started it all, the first commercial radio station in the world, KDKA. You knew that, right?
You weren't on this. You weren't on that.
I wasn't
show.
On. It just feels like that when the alarm goes off at 3 for my day job. But I had a chance to do something that I basically trained my whole career to do on Friday night. They asked me to do the play-by-play for the high school game of the week. Central Catholic, Pine Richland. Pine Richland has beaten Central Catholic for the last 3 seasons in a row. So it was a big game at Carnegie Mellon Stadium, Gessling Stadium. You're familiar. Your daughter played hoops there.
Yep.
It's a great little venue.
It's a great atmosphere. It looked awesome. Even when the highlights you get to see, it's
and the weather
great spot.
Was fantastic. So it was a perfect night. But how this ties in for the college football weekend opener is they have so many recruits from these two teams, D1 recruits. Khalil Taylor, who is with Pine Richland, ran back the kickoff. So the opening kickoff is run back by a young man named Chris Black for Central. 100-yard return to open the game. You're like, okay, here we go. So Central kicks off. Khalil Taylor runs it back 98 yards. Back-to-back kickoff return.
Who are special teams coaches right now?
They're fired. They're gone.
That's right.
But they have on the offensive line for Central, the average height and weight, 6'6", 270. This is high school.
Yeah.
So Carnegie Mellon's football team was practicing before the game, and when the high school teams came out, there wasn't much difference. In fact, Central's guys look bigger. One of them is Jimmy Kalis. His dad, Todd Kalis, played for the Steelers. Jay, you know him.
Yep.
His older son, Kyle, played 3 years in the league. But this kid is like 6'7", 280, 50 offers plus from D1 schools. And he spent the weekend after the game. They drove to Ohio State.
Yeah.
So he was on the sidelines for that game, and we'll get into that. But
yeah, I think the talent, as we've talked about, as long as I've been here, as long as I've been in Pittsburgh and I came in the late 80s, there is something special. I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm from the Philly side. So the football that comes out of Pennsylvania, we've always been extremely proud of that, or what's been developed. I think what we see out of Western PA, the pride that comes out of this city from that, which leads us in everything, and of course, Dan Marino, we know all the big names that have come out of here. But to me, Dave, I find it really amazing. I've seen all the things about the offensive line and what the size across it. You can't teach size. We all know that, but it's awesome that they have it. And the highlights of that game, I saw a big hit out, a little late hit out of bounds that kind of started a little brouhaha, which was quite entertaining. But you could tell there was a big battle going on between that. I still feel high school football, that's the Friday night deal. It shouldn't be infiltrated by college. We know NFL next week or this week. I'm not a fan of that. I think it should be purely high school football. I love that. I love the idea of it. Friday Night Lights, great stuff.
Just a footnote. So Khalil Taylor, who's a Penn State recruit, came over to Pine Richland. That is the first time he touched the football. Yeah, it's imagine that your first time you run a kickoff, 98 yards to score. So Central ended up winning and exercising the demons. And then college football, we had all 3 area teams. Obviously, Pitt hosted Duquesne. That hasn't happened in 86 years. And looking at the score, maybe you know why.
Well,
they put up 61.
We talked about that over the weekend.
Yeah, different ends of the spectrum, right? You got Penn State over up against Nevada, West Virginia with Robert Morris, Pitt with Duquesne. Then you see some of the high-profile matchups, and which we're going to watch the high-profile matchups along with our favorite teams. But which schedule sets up your team the best for the rest of the season, especially now with the expanded playoffs? Because now, if you're Texas, you can afford to lose the first game and not be set back too much because so many teams make the playoffs. But which game's going to get you better prepared for your conference play? That's
so, Larry, with you you're working to pick games too. So I thought it was kind of great to see that. And you're giving a smaller school an opportunity. Number one, if you look at it, large schools or bigger schools are paying small schools to come to their building, right?
Right.
So the small school gets some money, they get the notoriety, and then the gate goes to the big school. But it is a way to start off your schedule. You get a jump, you get on, and you hope you're starting 1-0, and then you move on. Then we saw the other games, they're head-to-head, 1 versus 3, and we'll get into that too. But I will say, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but Appalachian State played Michigan. I think it was 2007. I know it was right because I was at a member guest up in Chicago, right? There's your Ohio State, Michigan fans up there. Appalachian State comes in. So you figure Michigan paid Appalachian State to come to their building and they get beat. And it's the first time a team dropped out of the top 5 in week 1 out of the top 25. I mean, so there's the danger. It should never happen. But an FBS school losing to an FCS school should never happen.
I think the joke was, how many batters did it take to light up Michigan? This 1AA. Because they were 1AA at the time.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's good.
And when I'm thinking about, you can't compare generationally. Duquesne actually won that game 86 years ago when Pitt was ranked number 1 then. So it can happen. That's kind of the intrigue. But if you're going to play an FCS school, why not be a school where the local team benefits? The campuses are 2 miles from each other.
Yeah.
And Jerry Schmidt, who's the head coach of Duquesne, 21 years, he's won his share of NEC championships, also has been coach of the year, proud tradition. But they've been trying to play up to get a payday. They played Boston College. They played Florida State. And now you see Robert Morris doing the same thing. I'd like to see them, maybe continue this between Pitt and Duquesne, even though it's lopsided. Look, they had 54,000 people in Acrisure Stadium.
Yeah.
So for
a lot of those players might never, you might not get that same experience. To me, it's really good. I saw the interview with the head coach of Duquesne right before the game. It's great because it's a Pittsburgh guy too. So I'm all in favor of that. As you mentioned, Robert Morris going to West Virginia, everything about that. I still find for a player to get that experience, and then you realize, and you see where the 22 or 25 less scholarships, that's a big thing. You might have something up front, but through a full game, through 4 quarters, the weaknesses get exposed. So, but I think the opportunity for the players and the coaching staff and Duquesne in general, I love the intro. I love how it showed Pittsburgh, and you go from there. But it's Pitt did what they needed to do. Penn State did what they needed to do. WVU did the same thing.
Yeah, and I host the Dan McCann Coaches Luncheon on Tuesdays. It's the second Tuesday of every month through December. So you have a lot of the high school kids, and then they bring in college, either coaches or players to speak to, and then some of the pros, like they had Dick LeBeau, they've had Kevin Colbert, so it's a great thing. But I joked to Jerry Schmidt, I said, so you've played this team. We have an announcement. Duquesne will play the Seattle Seahawks next year in the preseason. But proud traditions, college football underway, and because of the Labor Day, this is one of the only weekends that the NFL gives up a weekend period.
Yeah.
Year-round, they come up with, through the draft, everything they do is marketable, but they give up Labor Day, and you have games, through the Labor Day weekend. So,
yeah, look, I've got to say this. So when you think about players and you think about how the games go, and you go from high school and you go to college, and if any so small a number that gets to the NFL, right, which we understand all that, but the step up each level, the speed that comes with it. You're a freshman, you're a big deal in high school when you're a senior, then you come down, you get put in your place immediately as a freshman in college. So for me, I think the experience that goes with it, I think what Duquesne gained, I'm going to go back to that for 1 second. What Duquesne and the players gain from that, it'll just make them better when they come into week 2 for them, and what that was all about. And maybe if you got pushed around or if something didn't go your way, pressure on the quarterback all the time. I think all those things guys deal with. But I also think the NFL, how it's going to dominate, and I touched on it just a couple minutes ago. I wish they would stay away from Friday night. I wish college would stay away. College should be Saturday. I know it's about money and it's about betting and it's about everything and all the nights you can get it. Truly wish it would be just reserved for high school football.
Plus, a couple weeks ago, you guys talked about NIL and how that's changed the landscape too. it holds true too for the Duquesnes and the Robert Moore. They get a chance now to play against another Division I school. How often are you watching a game and it said so-and-so played this place last year?
That's a great point, Dave, because somebody's watching that game, some coach somewhere, and saw this Isabella kid for Duquesne. And maybe they give, because it's the Wild West with the transfer portal. I wish we had a transfer portal in our jobs. I'm not saying I would get any calls, but it would be interesting, right? What happened to Jay? He went in the transfer portal. Where'd he go? We don't know where the hell he went.
We talked about the good and bad of that, which I kind of agree with that, Larry. I think we all would like to have the ability to hop into a transfer portal. I do know one thing though. It's Robin. They're taking the talented players from the smaller school that has no chance of keeping a guy on a roster, which was our topic, a couple weeks ago on that NIL stuff. But yeah, it's freewheeling right now. And, I always thought about that too. I always felt coaches could up and leave whenever they wanted. Players never could. You sign it, you have a scholarship, and if you're lucky enough to have a scholarship, you're locked in. Now there's freedom to it, which was never there before. But coaches who recruited you, sell you the line of, we're loyal, we're here, we'll watch over you, then they could jump ship before you even start your season. So I'm glad for players to be able to do it, but it certainly is. It's trying times for college sports. And if you're a coach, it's a different world to coach in this kind of thing. Brad Berry, who's the University of North Dakota hockey coach, totally he's now out. It made it so difficult. I believe Jay Wright out of Villanova, same kind of thing. It's a different world trying to coach and recruit. And it's like the haves and the have-nots. Can be that way.
Yeah, I think they're trying to figure it out, but it is like the Wild West. And the one big issue is they lure a player with money, with NIL deals, and then they don't have a signed contract in some cases, so they're not holding the player who agreed to do this, and then they transfer again or get lured by more money from somebody else. Yeah. They got to figure it out, put some guardrails on it, because it's crazy. Imagine being a coach and trying to keep your team together. Even Pitt, they have this Desmond Reed, who's an outstanding two-way. He's an undersized running back, but he's lightning. And, he had a kickoff punt return to get the scoring going on Saturday for Pitt. Rumor was he had 15, 16 offers from other schools. So they were fortunate to be able to keep him and their quarterback, Eli Holstein. But they got to figure it out sooner than later.
You watch the introductions, and this is a remade offensive line. They're not talking about recruits. They're talking about bringing guys in the transfer portal.
Well, as carrying the games, part of what we have to always keep in mind is transfer from.
Yeah.
So college football
back in the day, you couldn't make a lateral move. You couldn't go D1 to D1 school. You had to sit out a year or go down one level. I mean, to me, it's the freedom. The freedom certainly I like. The loyalty But like I just said, some coaches don't even have loyalty. They bring you in and they're gone. They can leave. And you're recruited by a guy that's gone. Now you could be on the outside looking in as a player. So I like the freedom for an athlete that he gets it. I don't like kind of what it represents. But again, also schools are making a lot of money on players that their jerseys are everywhere. Right? That the whole thing comes into play. I understand that.
It's not a little difference, Jay, on the south side. Where Pitt shares that space with the Steelers. Here's a little observation. In not the main lot, because that's where the Steelers players park, there's a lot on the other side of their indoor field. I noticed the quality of the cars has changed in the last couple of years. I know that sounds funny, but it's absolutely true, because a lot of these players have NIL deals, and they're getting better cars, and you can see it. They're wearing better watches. So,
hey, I didn't even have a car. Change. I walked around campus. I didn't take a car. Nobody had
North Dakota
cars. Yeah, no, North Dakota.
You had a sled,
20 below, with 30-mile-an-hour winds. Walked.
You had skis.
Hey, listen, it's not far off, Larry. I mean, it was cold out there, but I don't know. Not many guys had cars. When we were in school, of course. Look, Pitt's a different campus too, but a lot of places I've heard about that. And it's a really good point too, because I heard about some schools, even like Penn State, how each position was upped a little bit more. I mean, to me, it's kind of amazing what's going on out there. And it's I said, it's great for the athlete. I'm not trying hey, if an athlete can get that, more power to him. It's just wild where it's at compared to what it was before. You're completely locked down. Now they've opened up the floodgates, if you will, and it's completely different.
Think about it. They have a decision to make. Do I leave college? Can I make more money in the pros, or do I stay in college for another year and make more money there and then go to the pros?
For some players, that is the case.
Yeah.
All right, 2 huge games over the past weekend. You know, a lot of teams like Pitt, West Virginia, and Penn State played their openers, but Ohio State, ranked 3rd, coming off their national championship, hosting number 3, Texas.
By the way, can I say something before we get into that?
Or is it reverse?
No. Texas number 1,
one.
number 3.
And Ohio State 3.
Before we get in, because we were talking about cars, I've got to say something about Rourke Automotive, right? Dave Rourke, our great friend, our main sponsor right now, not only, again, great to deal with when you purchase a car, but it's the service after it. I want to make sure everybody knows Rourke Automotive, outstanding, and probably some of the cars that he sells, I think some of these players could be driving around in these days. Not ever before, but now. But
Good point, Bob.
Rourke Automotive, outstanding. So thanks. Now let's get on
So
to
you have
that.
number 1, number 3 in the shoe at Ohio State. There's no venues that are bigger than that. And these 2 teams, I'll tell you how big the game was. You know, for an opener, that's marquee, obviously, is actor Matthew McConaughey was on the sidelines for Texas. All right. He left very unhappy. So Arch Manning, who's supposed to be the dawn of and the best of the Manning family, 3rd-generation quarterback, right? Yeah. In college, didn't go so well. What happened, Dave? You start to
I mean, first road start at the shoe. Imagine that. You know, only a handful of games last year. You know, probably one of the most hyped up prospects in college I can remember in a long time. Like your point, he's gonna be the first overall draft pick next year. Like, let him play some games first. So, you know, you heard about the arm, you heard about the athleticism that he could run the ball, and then you watch the first 3 quarters. You're like, where's this at? Now, I mean, you got to give some credit to Ohio State too in their defense, and Matt Patricia, who came over from the NFL to replace their defensive coordinator. But I wasn't impressed just with the throwing motion. Like he was a gunslinger. It's not a catchable ball.
like Napoleon Dynamite. What was that guy's name? Uncle
Rico.
Uncle Rico throwing sidearm and knocking 2 guys off a bicycle. So they cut that in.
Yeah, well, anyway, there was time.
No touch. I mean, you just.
I feel the same way. I thought, look, there's a lot of hype, and everybody knows. I mean, if it's not a Manning, and it's been talked about, so this isn't rocket science what I'm saying here, but where would that be? I mean, you're talking about the number 1 pick, something, all these kind of things that go with a tight, putting that on the guy's back is tough, right? But he's got NIL money, big money to be there. Nobody was happy, right? And you mentioned when you have Matt Patricia. Johnny Manziel had a really good comment over the weekend that he game planned for guys like, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and the likes of that. It's pretty easy to game plan for a guy in his first big start, really, as you mentioned, against Ohio State. That's number 1. I also thought the play calling in his defense, I thought it was really, the first couple quarters, I thought it was just so vanilla, right? That's how it looked to me. But when he did have an open guy, he didn't hit him. And the one that killed me today, and we can talk more on, I felt late when kind of Ohio State kind of went prevent, which we have a discussion about this. We'll say it again. We'll probably say it all year long. Never understand when you're totally controlling the game, you gave them life. With 3-4 minutes to go, you opened the field up, prevent defense. I don't know exactly what they went into, but it certainly looked way easier. All of a sudden, he's getting mop-up yards. He had 170 yards throwing, but it really, happened
on 1 throw.
Yeah. So for me, missing the guy in the flat late after it was a 14-7 game, that should be for a hyped-up quarterback like that, for NFL, that's a play that needs to be made 100 out of 100 times, and he missed them. And it's kind of showed what the game was like. He wasn't prepared for that. They didn't have him prepared for it, the coaching staff. And all the hype is a lot of pressure that goes with that. We all understand. And that's not going to say that one day he might not be what they're talking about now, but he is not in that position now. And if you're Texas and you're the fan base there, but a tough first start. That's another topic we can get into a little bit later on. But it's a tough first start for him with all the pressure that goes with it.
Just one game. It's throwing motion for me, though.
Yeah.
It's
No.
no touch on the ball. He's throwing
Uncle Rico.
lasers.
Take a look.
I will say one thing as any athlete, when it starts going sideways on you, man, the game's going so fast. If you listen, Dan, your brother Dan Marino, when the greats in every sport, whatever it is, they have the ability to slow it down, right? Like even when we play golf, when all of a sudden you go, what happened to that drive? All of a sudden there's a speed up process. I think what he was going through there, not only with the heat going on, but again, Dave, I agree with you on the throws and throwing motions and everything that went with it. But the game speeds up. And when it's going sideways for you, no matter who you are, whether you're an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, something's not going right and you start to press, that's what that looked like to me. So,
to your point about prevent, my late father-in-law used to say, keep doing what you're doing if you're successful doing it, right?
Yeah.
He used to say, prevent yourself from winning by changing to that. Because back in the day, the Dolphins would go to this vanilla defense, and it was always a shootout because their defense wasn't overall very good. And then they'd end up, if they lost a game, he'd say, they went to that prevent defense. It prevented us from winning.
Yeah. And Dave, I totally agree with that, Larry. I feel the same way. And certainly your father-in-law knew quite a bit about all what that was about. I think when you have the press and social media is not letting him, he's not walking away free on this. I mean, they're jumping all over this right now. And I also think that when you have a guy and the Manning name and what that means, it's a huge part of why that rises there. But also, again, big matchup, and we talked about this too. I think what would you look at and what would you prefer? We just touched on it 10 minutes ago, but what would you prefer? A big-time game or a game you should take care of business with if you're starting off your college season?
If you win the big-time game, it's easier to start 1-0.
Right.
But
we also said, we also did think with the playoff format in college football, it's different today. Like you can sustain, you lost one.
Right.
You can get over that if you just play ball the rest of the way. You couldn't really do that before. Like that's what you couldn't let that happen. Now it gives them a little more freedom. But there was 4 or 5 pretty good matchups number wise over the weekend.
Yeah, and one of those, Notre Dame, Miami. Miami ends up winning with a field goal, and I think Notre Dame was shocked.
Yeah,
but Miami's ranked 10th. They got a lot of talent. They always have a lot of talent in Florida. But that ends up being a marquee game. And then you have Alabama lose, and you talked about the contract.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's tough to follow Nick Saban. Come on.
Nick Saban, that's that topic right there for me. That's a really good point, Larry. I really believe Nick Saban as a college coach, right, in 17 years, I don't think the numbers in front of me, I think as far as going against unranked teams, in his 17 years, I think he maybe had 4 losses in that world. I think so. The current coach right now has already got 4. And it's 1 year and 1 game into his tenure.
123-4.
Okay.
At Alabama.
That's not bad.
No. So also, there's another stat too. Whenever a 14-point or more favorite, I think Nick Saban's numbers are kind of very similar to that. I think the Heat on an $87 million new coach is there right now. Didn't have a good year last year.
Why are they paying him that money anyway?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not sure why that number. I
wonder what the buyout number is, because it may be coming.
I'm sure those big NIL donors are like, wait a minute, can we rethink that? Or look, that's the one thing I think that's going to come at all. You're getting money, people putting big money in, and I don't think the patience is going to be there. I don't think it ever was. I mean, it never was. I mean, donors, we always know about like your alumni and what that meant. You know, and we all seen the movies. What's it really like? Well, I know where I was at and what it was kind of about. But you really can't get a taste of it. I think now with the money that's coming into this, it's going to be at another level. And somebody gives a lot of money might feel they have the right to go in and make a comment here or there or take it a little further. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear more stories like that down the line.
When they lost to Vanderbilt last year, like I know Vanderbilt had a good season, but that was eye-opening.
So speaking of the money in college football, online betting has changed the world in sports, obviously. It used to be, taboo. Only one place in America you could do it legitimately. But it's, fantasy football. It's not even about the teams for a lot of people. It's how my guys do, putting a roster together that's why I quit doing fantasy football. I found out I was stressing over my roster and lineup heading into, I'm like, what am I doing? I could win, a couple $100 or, this is silly. So that's changed the game. On Thursday, we're going to run down the NFL season. Here we go. The Steelers will be in New York to take on the Jets on Sunday. Meanwhile, I want to thank One Team Media. The man behind the curtain is Brian Hess. And want to thank from Odyssey, Pittsburgh, Michael Spacciopoli, creating this strategic partnership. A lot of fun. Larry and the big man, Dave Ricchini. Big man, thank you.
Yeah, Larry, we're really glad you're a part of it, as we said last week. And one more time, Dave Rourke and Rourke Automotive. We're so thankful for them for being our major sponsor. Thanks for being a part of it.
Here we go. That's a wrap.